What is up, awesome people of the internet? Welcome to another week of Women's Basketball Weekly. Y'all, we got a lot to talk about today, including some big games from this past week. We're going to talk about some upsets. We're going to talk about the dominance of NC State and why they should be a team that is on your must-watch list. We talk about NCAA rankings and who was added, who was moved, and where UConn is right now. I give you all some updates about the WNBA. And for our history section, we talk about the first undefeated team in NCAA history. And we finally wrap up with talking about 3x3 international basketball. All right, guys, that is the rundown. So let's get into it. Cue the intro. All right, y'all, another week means another set of upsets to talk about. And we start with Stanford getting blown out by unranked Gonzaga, or now they are ranked Gonzaga. They lost 96-78 in this game, and this definitely was not a scoreline that we were expecting, or maybe if we were, it would be the other way around, but for sure not Stanford losing by such a wide margin to unranked Gonzaga. Now, this game really got the Zags some big notoriety, but in all reality, like, the Zags are a really good team, and they've been pretty good this entire season, and now they're finally getting the respect that they deserve from winning against Stanford. And this game really was over at halftime. The Zags really did their thing, and from a Stanford perspective, they have been good so far on defense, but not against the Zags. The Zags only turned the ball over 7 times. The Zags also were pretty efficient, shooting 42% from 3 and 56% overall for for Gonzaga overall. And that's kind of how Stanford lost. Gonzaga is a team that is pretty evenly matched. They were able to beat Stanford by committee, with each of their starters going into double figures, which is pretty impressive, especially going up against a team like Stanford. Shout out to Yvonne Ejim, who dominated this game for the Zags, scoring 27 points in this game. Also, she had 12 rebounds. Also, Brianna Maxwell, shout out to her as well. She had 27 points in this game as well for the Zags. And just sort of looking back at that game yesterday, Gonzaga was just the better team out there. They just were. And it seemed pretty obvious from early on in the game. It didn't help at all that Stanford didn't have Cameron Brink for the second half. She was out due to illness. And with a big person like that out of the game, you would think that other players on Stanford's bench would step up. But they just couldn't withstand Gonzaga and what they were doing on the offensive side. Like, Stanford just couldn't stop it. And from Stanford's perspective, they just weren't able to put enough buckets, in the rim to actually make a game out of it, especially with Cameron Brink out. This was a very uncharacteristic game for Stanford, and we'll see how they come back, because this was a very embarrassing loss. If you're a Stanford Cardinals fan, this was not a game that I honestly was even planning on watching. There was a lot of games that happened yesterday, and I wasn't planning on watching the Stanford Gonzaga game until I found out, like, a little bit after halftime, that Stanford was getting killed. And I turned the TV and started watching it, but it's pretty interesting, But shout out to the Zags. This is the highest ranked win in program history for them. And this marks the 12th time a top 10 team has lost this season. And a question I have for you guys, did you watch this game? What did you think overall about what Stanford had to offer? And compared to what Gonzaga had to offer, because Gonzaga definitely were the better team. But let me know what you all thought about that game overall, if you had a chance to watch. And also, what do you think about Cameron Brink being out? How long do you think she's possibly going to be out? Again, they said she had an illness, so we don't quite know. But if you all have any thoughts around if Stanford might have won without even if Cameron Brink wasn't out? Like, do you think they could have had a chance? I personally think they would have still lost, regardless. But, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. All right, so that was probably the biggest upset of this past week. And now on to another upset. I want to talk about this past Thursday when Arkansas defeated then 15th ranked Florida State University, y'all. Now, this game was pretty close in the first half. And then Arkansas just blitzed Florida State. They at one point they went 24-6. They went on a 24-6 run, and it was basically over from there. A big shout out to Taylor Poffenbarger, who had 13 points and a whopping 23 rebounds. Yeah, you heard me right. I said 23 rebounds. That broke the school record for individual game rebounds. And also shout out to Talea Scott, who did her thing as well against Florida State University. For Arkansas, she had 24 points. So y'all, Arkansas is a really good team. And even though they were unranked last week, Mike Neighbors and company, they have gotten to a really good start this season.
Hey, who said ever play defense in Arkansas?
And we'll see how they continue to progress, especially in SEC play, because I think that's definitely when they're going to struggle a little bit. Arkansas is a very good team, and a lot of times they don't really get the recognition that they deserve because they play in the SEC, and the SEC is so tough. But I truly, if they were in any other conference, they would be pretty dominant during conference play. Arkansas also played number 2 UCLA yesterday, but they ended up losing that game 81-66. All right, other notable games to talk about this week include Texas beating UConn 80-68. Now, y'all, I'm just gonna say this. I'm not gonna talk that much about this game, but I'm gonna say this: Rory Harmon is that girl. She is a straight up problem for Texas, and is a player that if she is not on your radar, Rory Harmon needs to be on your radar. I will be doing a future spotlight on her in the future, but just if you don't know, now you know, check out Rory Harmon. All right, in other games, we had Ole Miss, who lost to then unranked Southern Mississippi, 59-61. Now, Dominique Davis is in her 5th year in college basketball, and she really upped her game this season. She had 25 points in this game. She also had 5 assists. Fun fact, she played for LSU before transferring to Southern Mississippi, and she really was the player of the game to get Southern Mississippi this win. And this was obviously a very, very close game that, Coach Yo and Ole Miss just wasn't able to capitalize. But shout out to Southern Mississippi. They're pretty good. Actually, they're not pretty good. They're very good. And definitely is another team that may not have been on your radar before, but is a team that you really need to make sure is on your radar going forward. We had South Carolina that defeated North Carolina in a very, very close game this past week. The game was closer, I would say, than the final score alludes. South Carolina won 65-58. There were also some kind of scuffles in that game as well. So yeah, that's that. Also, Utah beat BYU 87-68. LSU beat Virginia Tech 82-64 in Angel Reese's return to the court. And also that game marked Kim Mulkey's 700th win, which is a milestone that she has hit faster than any other men's or women's basketball coach. So huge deal. Shout out to Kim Mulkey for that. That's pretty impressive. Also, a fun fact from yesterday. If you're paying attention, Stanford, Tennessee, and UConn lost yesterday. These are what you would probably consider the traditional powers of women's college basketball, and they all lost on the same day. Now, y'all, this is the first time that this has happened in a bunch of years. The last time this happened was December the 29th, 2004. So yesterday was a huge deal, and a historic deal for women's college basketball, having the 3 traditional powerhouses lose. Stanford, who lost to Gonzaga, Tennessee lost to Ohio State, and UConn lost to Texas. All right, guys, I want to tell you all a story. Now, this is a story about a team that has been counted out. They were counted out at the start of the season. They're a team that started the year outside of the top 25. They were picked to finish 8th in the SEC. They had no one in the preseason all SEC team. This is a team that lost their best player last season to the transfer portal. They weren't expected to do much. And then the season started and the rest is history. Now, what team am I talking about? Of course, NC State. In their 50th year as a program, NC State is playing peak basketball, going undefeated so far and pulling off some huge upsets against both UConn and Colorado. And if you haven't been watching NC State play this year, you may ask the question, why? Why them? What makes them so special to be ranked where they are? And I would say one word: consistency.
8 straight seasons of 20 plus. Last year was kind of a crazy year, though, right? A little bit different. But what did you learn? What did you learn from a season like that?
Yeah, I don't know. We just we had some great wins, including beating Iowa on the road and winning some big ACC games, and then we had some tough losses. So probably the first year in my 34 years as a head coach, first year that it was a little up and down. And I always use the analogy. I want our team to be like McDonald's French fries. You can be anywhere in the world, and when you go to McDonald's, you know what you're getting. And that's the way I want us to be, night in, night out, no matter where we are. I want us to be hot and salty, and didn't quite get it done. So we got to get back to being McDonald's fries, and, y'all can give me a little bit of a kickback anytime, McDonald's.
As Coach Wes Moore said, last year, NC State really was a roller coaster team. Sometimes they look pretty good, and other times they look downright terrible. During this offseason, the Wolfpack had to make some serious changes. They wound up losing in the first round of the tournament last season, which was a huge disappointment, especially since they made it to the regionals the previous year. Wes Moore wanted McDonald's French fries, and this is what he's gotten so far this year. Thanks to his starters, Zennia Rivers, Isaiah James, River Baldwin, Mimi Collins, and Madison Hayes. Now, these players have stepped up on just about every single level. First, you have 6 foot tall Madison Hayes, who has gone from shooting a 30% shot from the 3-point line to shooting at 50% right now. She also increased her average in points and rebounds to 10 points a game and 5.4 rebounds a game. Now, you also have 6'3" Mimi Collins, who has really embraced her role as a starter, increasing her efficiency in just about every metric, especially from the 3-point line.
Mimi, you're shooting so well from 3 so far this season. Is that something you were excited to show off this season, that improvement?
Yeah, a little bit, but I was more focused on my versatility. But it's now that I'm showing what I'm capable of and what I was doing earlier in my college career, and just seeing those numbers come back, it's a blessing to me.
And then there's 6'5" River Baldwin, who really seems to have bought in what the coaches really wanted her to do. She has seen dramatic improvement from the free throw line, now shooting 90% from the free throw line, when last year she was shooting 50%. She also has improved as a shooter and as a rebounder as well, and has had her best game of her career against Colorado when she scored 24 points, going 70% from the field and grabbing 8 boards.
I think coming into the year, I had this leadership standpoint, but I didn't really buy into doing the little things, and something in the Virgin Islands just switched of if I play defense, buy into the scout, do what the coaches are asking, and rebound, points will come or they won't. I don't really care as long as we get the W.
And then we also have the MVPs of the season so far for NC State, which are the dynamic duo of Isaiah James and Zennia Rivers. First, let's talk about Isaiah James. Isaiah James is one of those players who went from a decent role player to a bona fide star over the summer. She more than doubled her points. Last year, she was averaging 6.8 points a game. Now she is averaging 16.2. She's a whole lot more aggressive on the offensive and defensive end. And she is playing with a confidence that I have not seen her play with before in previous seasons. And the thing that I really like about Isaiah is that she waited her turn, and she didn't give up on the program and what Wes Moore was trying to do. She came off the bench in her freshman and sophomore year, though, to be more accurate, during the end of last season, she actually was starting. for the last couple of games last season. But she embraced her role at the time, and now coming into the season, she's older and she's better, way better. Isaiah James said, I'm older now, so I have to really think about the decisions on the court and off the court as well. I try to come out here and just be 100% every day, 110% actually. So I keep saying the same for the younger people. Just do the same thing. No coming here sluggish or anything. Just be on your toes every practice, in every game. And that's what Isaiah has been doing. She's just a fun player to watch. And to think that we will get to see her play another year in college basketball, she's special, and she's very special to watch, especially paired with her phenomenal teammate, Zennia Rivers, aka Miss Do-It-All for NC State. Zennia Rivers is a bona fide star. She can do everything. She can defend, she can crash the boards, and she can get in the paint and score. Last year, she was the ACC Sixth Player of the Year, and over the summer, she has continued to step up her game. Her impact is way more than just points. You really need to watch her play to see what she can do. She's averaging 13.7 points a game, 4.4 rebounds, and 4.4 assists and 5.9 rebounds. And she is the bona fide leader of this team. And again, as I say, yes, she's doing well in terms of scoring and assisting and rebounding, but her impact on this team is way, way more than just the points and rebounds and assists. It's the hockey assist that she gets. It's the way that she just controls this game and controls this team as well. That is pretty awesome to see. And those are just the 5 starters that I just went over. But NC State has some great bench players who come off the bench and bring in some good minutes. NC State is a special team. They can play some defense, and they have players who can just straight up score from anywhere on the court. This is fun basketball to watch. And when NC State looks free, that's when they play the best. They are looking consistent. They're having fun. And it looks like Wes Moore is getting what he wants in those McDonald's fries vibes that he was trying to go for. If you haven't watched NC State, you need to do yourself a favor and watch NC State play. But for those who have watched NC State play, what are your thoughts so far about their season? How long do you think they'll be able to keep up this winning streak? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. NC State is a team that is now ranked number 3 in the country, and they're receiving a lot of praise. But what you may not remember is that they were counted out. They are currently 9-0, and they begin ACC play in late December. All right, guys, moving on. So I do want to make you all aware of a situation that's happening in Kentucky. Sophomore Zennia Thomas has been suspended indefinitely from Kentucky. The school announced this news this past Thursday. They said Zennia Thomas will not be available for the Kentucky-Boston College game. The sophomore forward is suspended indefinitely for a disciplinary matter that is being handled internally. So we don't know what this disciplinary issue is, nor will there be any speculation on this channel about what's going on. But we also don't know how long Zennia will be out. So we'll see. Zennia, for those who don't know, is a 6'2" forward. In her second year at Kentucky, she is from Lyndhurst, Ohio. And here's what she had to say when she made the decision to go to Kentucky. She said, "My relationship with Coach Elsie feels like more than player/coach relationship. She reminds me so much of my mother. She is going to be hard on me and honest, but it's coming from a place of passion and love. I wanted her as my coach because she also reminds me of my high school coach. They both want my best, and I felt with Coach Elsie, she was definitely going to be the one to push that out of me." And again, we are not here to speculate what's happening, but prayers up for Zennia and whatever is going on. We know it's a disciplinary issue, but whatever it is specifically that happened, that she and the team is able to work through those issues, and she's able to get back on the court soon. And from a sort of on the court perspective, this isn't like the hugest deal for the program, as Zennia hasn't played that much this season. She's averaging 11 minutes a game, though she did start one game this season, and she is averaging 2 points a game. She's not like a star on this team, but she is a player who is in the rotation. So hopefully she will be back on the court soon. All right, y'all, before we finish talking about women's college basketball, I do want to go over the new AP rankings that just came out today. So, of course, we have South Carolina at number 1, which, of course, makes a lot of sense. They are the absolute number 1 choice, and they were actually unanimous for this week, which, of course, makes a lot of sense. UCLA is number 2. We have NC State, which I profiled earlier. They're at number 3, well-deserved, very, very good team. Iowa is number 4. I'm kind of surprised that Iowa is still ranked so high. But yeah, they're at number 4. And then Texas rounds out the top 5. Well-deserved for Texas. They're a very good team in the Big 12 who's just, doing really well. They've dominated a ton of teams, and we saw how they played against UConn. So shout out to the women of Texas. Number 6 is USC. Makes sense. LSU. I'm surprised that LSU has not gone up in the rankings. I figured they would have moved up, but they did not. I personally would have put LSU and USC and Texas over Iowa, personally. We have Colorado at number 8. It went down 1 spot. Stanford, surprisingly, only went down 6 spots, which to me is surprising. I figured they would have went down further, especially with that loss against Gonzaga and the way that they lost. But I wonder if the reason why they weren't dropped down so far is because Cameron Brink had an illness in the second half of that game. And so I wonder if that maybe factored into the judges' sort of thought process, kind of. Baylor rounds out the top 10. Then we have Utah at 11, Ohio State at 12, K-State at 13, Notre Dame at 14, Virginia Tech 15, Indiana 16. UConn now is at number 17. And I thought, for those who caught one of my live streams over the weekend, you heard me talking about UConn, and I really didn't think that UConn was going to drop this low. I figured, I didn't think they were going to drop that low, mainly because it feels like there's a huge bias for UConn, and to me that's definitely a factor. But surprisingly, they were dropped. So for a fun fact for you guys, this is UConn's worst ranking in 30 years. So this is a huge deal for them to be ranked number 17. This also ends their 357 week stretch of being ranked top 15. So yeah, that's a big deal. 357 week streak they were on, and they lost it because now they are ranked outside of the top 15. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Louisville is ranked number 18. Marquette is a team that I have not watched this year. They're ranked number 19. So now I need to watch them because I haven't watched a game. If y'all have watched a game of Marquette's, let me know what y'all think about Marquette in the comments. I'll go back and watch some of the old games and like some of the games over the past couple of weeks and see what's going on with Marquette. But shout out to Marquette for being number 19. We also have Florida State number 20, Washington State number 21, Creighton at number 22, Gonzaga. They got their way in the top 25 with the awesome win against Stanford. Now North Carolina, I believe they totally played their way into a top 25 pick because of the way that they played South Carolina. Yes, they lost against South Carolina, but it was the way, it was how tough of an out they were for South Carolina that I think is what really got them into the top 25. Yes, they're 5-3 on the season, but that was a really impressive game that they played against South Carolina, even with the loss. And I think that is what earned them a spot in the top 25. Also, Penn State rounds out the top 25 with the 25th pick. They are currently 7-1 in the country. So, a couple of big observations is just how much parity there is in the women's game. Just with the different conferences that are like sort of at the top. Though I will say the Pac-12, they're having a great swan song outro. Like they just really are, because if you take a look at this, we have UCLA number 2, Pac-12. We have USC number 6, Pac-12. We have Colorado number 8, Pac-12. We have Stanford at number 9, Pac-12. And we have Utah at number 11, again, Pac-12. Like, yes, there's a lot of other conferences in there. And the parity is great, but the Pac-12, it's a bummer that they won't exist anymore. Of course, the teams will still exist, but like the conference won't exist because they're having a great outro to their season. But in terms of other conferences, we got, the SEC with South Carolina and LSU that are doing their thing. We have the ACC being represented well with NC State. NC State is the highest ACC team ranked. And then you have to go all the way down to number 14 for the next ACC team. We also have the Big Ten being represented with Iowa. And then we have Ohio State at number 12. Texas represented for the Big 12. I'm enjoying seeing the variety of conferences in here. Of course, and then you have to go all the way down to see the Big East being represented in UConn. And then of course Marquette at number 19 as well. What do y'all think about these rankings? I think it's kind of cool to sort of see the different teams, especially as you go further down. The thing that I really, really enjoy is that you're seeing teams that a lot of people may not even really consider a women's basketball team. For example, Marquette, Washington State's been pretty good, but Creighton, Gonzaga, Penn State, like these are programs that you don't find, their games are not on ESPN. They're not. They may be on ESPN Plus, but they're not on like ESPN, ESPN2, ABC. Like these are not some of the traditional teams that have been very good. And I'm just enjoying seeing them get their shine, and can't wait to see even more upsets with some of these teams that, people aren't expecting to be good, but are good. As I've said a lot of times before, there's a lot of parity in women's basketball, and it's great to see. It really is. So all these top teams, they better be on their toes, because otherwise they're going to get got and they're going to lose and they're going to fall in the rankings. All right, guys. That's a look at the new rankings for women's basketball for week 5. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And also, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. All right, now on to the WNBA. I just have 2 updates for you this week. Shakira Austin of the Washington Mystics recently had surgery to repair a labrum tear in her left hip. Her recovery is going to take around 4 to 6 months, so her being available to start the WNBA season is in doubt. After her surgery, Shakira posted this on IG. She said, "Just a little razzle dazzle to my testimony. God has taught me a lot about myself throughout this process, but more importantly, that I've always been built for it. Can't nobody stop me but me. And if you know my story, you know what's at the end of this journey. I promise you I won't come back the same Kira. # stay tuned." Prayers up for Shakira Austin that she is able to recover successfully from this injury. Typically hip injuries are kind of tough to come back from, especially for super athletic players like Shakira Austin. So I pray that she'll be able to be back to her sort of normal self, the way she was kind of in her rookie year, and certain parts of last year as well. Especially since she did deal with some issues, some injuries this past season. I'm hoping that when she comes back, whenever she comes back for the 2024 season, that she will be fully healthy and ready to go for the Washington Mystics. The future success of the Washington Mystics is really up in the air, especially since their best players in Elena Delle Donne and Shakira Austin are both kind of a question mark in terms of health. So we'll see what the Mystics are able to do this season. And speaking of the Washington Mystics, I have one more thing to share with you. Former Washington Mystics guard Kristi Toliver has been named the associate head coach for the Phoenix Mercury. Congratulations, Kristi. That's very exciting information. As you all know, the Mercury hired Nate Tibbetts as the head coach in October, and he is building out his coaching staff, and he decided to start with Kristi Toliver. And Kristi Toliver has not technically announced that she is retiring from the WNBA, but it's pretty safe to assume that this is her, like, she's done basically as a player. Though, well, I guess we'll wait till she officially says it. She spent 14 years in the WNBA after being drafted number 3 overall in 2009 by the Chicago Sky. Kristi spent most of her career in LA with the Sparks. She also had 4 years with the Washington Mystics. She has 2 championships under her belt, one with the Sparks, one with the Mystics. And she has dealt with a lot of injuries, which at this point, it kind of led her to basically being a spot-up. Over the course of her WNBA career, she has averaged 11.8 points a game, 3.4 assists a game. And while playing, Kristi has spent her off-season seasons coaching in the NBA. She was an assistant coach with the Washington Wizards, assistant coach for Dallas from 2021 to 2023. Her being the assistant head coach for the Mercury is a huge deal. And it is another step closer to her eventually becoming a head coach. So I'm curious, what do you all think about Kristi's new role? Do you think that her going to the Mercury is a good or a bad thing? Also, Nate Tibbetts doesn't have any WNBA experience, so I think picking up a former player like Kristi Toliver is a huge way that he can kind of quickly acclimate himself with the WNBA, because you really have someone who's been doing this at a high level for a long time. Also, someone with a coaching mind that will be able to help him sort of navigate the WNBA and help him sort of coaching some of these players, because she's very familiar with these players as competitors, and now she'll be able to help them get better and better and better. So. Also, another thing to note is when Kristi officially announces her retirement, I will actually do a special segment just talking about how awesome she was as a player, because not only was she a really good WNBA player with the Sparks and the Minnesota Lynx, not Minnesota Lynx, the Washington Mystics, she was also a phenomenal player at Maryland, like phenomenal. So I'll do a future segment about her once she officially announces her retirement. All right, guys, now for an episode of In the History Books. So I do want to give a special shout out to the class of 2024, a Women's Basketball Hall of Fame class. They were just announced. The class is made up of 4 former players, 2 coaches, and 1 official. It includes WNBA legends Maya Moore, Taj McWilliams-Franklin, Simone Augustus, Rita Gale Easterling, Violet Palmer, Sue Phillips, and Mary Ronnie Scoville. They round out the list of the 25th anniversary class of the Hall. This induction will be held at the Tennessee Theater in Knoxville, Tennessee, on April the 27th, 2024. And I will also discuss each player in detail during a future episode of Women's Basketball Weekly, but I just wanted to let you all know who is going to be included in next year's Hall, and just to give them a shout out to the class of 2024, the Hall of Fame class. Congratulations on very, very great careers, and we'll be watching the induction happen, and also stay tuned for actual features of each of these players and coaches and referee. All right, for this week's In the History Books, I want to go back to 1986. Now, this was the year that Texas women's basketball went on a 31-0 run for the entire season and ended up winning the NCAA tournament. Now, this Texas team was very, very good, and they had been good for a while before that year. They entered the 84, 85, and 86 tournaments ranked at number 1 overall, but it never totally clicked for this team. They would win a lot of games during the regular season, and when it mattered the most over the past 6 seasons before 1986, the Longhorns just never made it. They never made it to the Final Four. They would always end up losing, even though they're a really good team. But 1986 was a different year. The team was coached by Jody Conrad, and it featured a load of stars, but it also featured one more thing that coaches never ever like. It featured a lot of injuries. There were 5 serious knee injuries that occurred on this team, and not only that, the star of the team, Cami Etheridge, she sprained both ankles that past January. CJ Jones broke her right foot. Gail Hemphill had congenital curvature of the spine and had to play with a hard brace on her midsection. You also had Clarissa Davis, who was second leading scorer for the team, who had asthma, and so her play was a bit sporadic. There's a lot of stuff that Coach Jody had to deal with. And even with all that stuff, the team still ended up going undefeated in 1986. And then they went to play the biggest game of their lives in the championship game. The championship game was against Cheryl Miller, Cynthia Cooper, and them girls at USC. And in front of 5,600 fans, the Longhorns did the unthinkable, and they downed the women of Troy to win the championship 97-81. Now, sure, Texas has some really good players, but what really won them the championship is their ability to play together and have each person step their game up to the next level. And that's really what they did in that game. They got Cheryl Miller to have a horrible game. They had her commit 4 fouls, in 16 minutes. And their defense was pretty tough on her, which limited her to only 16 points in that game. And this was at the height of Cheryl Miller's reign. Like, Cheryl Miller was basically the queen of women's basketball at the time. And this was basically impossible to do, but Texas did it. They limited her, and that's kind of how they won this game, Texas had players like Clarissa Davis, who scored a whopping 24 points and 14 rebounds in that championship game. And y'all, this was when she was a freshman. So pretty impressive. Clarissa was named the tournament's most outstanding player. You also had Cami Etheridge and Fran Harris, who made the NCAA Final Four All-Tournament team. And just talking about what Coach Judy did with this team, she said that the first thought was perfection. Immediately after the USC game, it hit me that we had accomplished something no other team had. There will be a champion crowned every year, but the undefeated championship will form an elite group. And she's right. She was right. Coach Jody held up a sign that a Texas fan made. It said, "Miller time is over. We want Lone Star." So they were trying to end Cheryl Miller's reign on women's college basketball, and they did for that year. I wanted to highlight this team because, for one, going 34-0 in a season is wild, and has only been done a handful of times in women's college basketball. And also the fact that this team dealt with so many injuries and just sort of issues to get to that final game, and they still was undefeated for that entire season. That, to me, that's just huge, and it just proves that even with a ton of injuries, you still can win. And also, as people talk about the greatest teams of women's basketball, I don't really see anybody talk about Texas. So I wanted to give them a shout out by name, just so we can all acknowledge how great this team really was. So shout out to Clarissa Davis, Michelle Englinger, Cammie Etheridge, Wanda Gardner, Fran Harris, Gay Hemphill, CJ Jones, Andrea Lloyd, Paulette Mogul, Kara Pretty, Annette Smith, Aubrey Smith, Beverly Williams, Yolanda Wimbish, and the entire coaching staff for making history for the NCAA, going 34-0 and becoming the first team in NCAA history to have complete a perfect game. So y'all let me know what you all think about this Texas team. Do y'all remember this team? Did y'all ever watch this team? I don't remember it because I wasn't live at that time, but just sort of going back and sort of reading about the history about this team, like it sounds pretty awesome. Like it sounds pretty awesome. And for those who were around at that time, let me know if you all remember this team and what you remember about it. Also, if you actually want to watch that final game against USC, you can actually catch that. It's on YouTube, so I'll link that video below. All right, guys, to round out this episode, we're going to talk about overseas talk. And we're going to talk about the 3x3 tournament that recently happened. So the 2023 3x3 AmeriCup Championship game happened this past week, and it was between Brazil and the United States of America. The championship game was in Puerto Rico, and it was a close one, with USA narrowly beating Brazil 21-20. So Team USA consisted of Katie Lou Samuelson and Dearica Hamby of the Sparks, Kelsey Mitchell of the Fever, and Camille Zimmerman, who never played in the WNBA, but was actually a very, very good college player at Columbia University. Camille has been with the 3x3 USA basketball circuit for a while now, and she's been on the AmeriCup team for 3 years. But anyway, back to the actual game. So the U.S., I would say, came into this match kind of evenly matched against Brazil. Brazil over the years has just been a really good women's basketball team. And it makes sense that the U.S. would have played Brazil in the championship game. Brazil was undefeated in the tournament. And I would just want to give a huge shout out to Dearica Hamby, who scored the game-winning basket off a lob pass from Kelsey Mitchell. Dearica hit the shot just in time as time expired, and she secured the win for Team USA. So Team USA won the gold in the AmeriCup tournament. Brazil won the silver, and Canada destroyed Chile 21-8 to win the bronze medal. This game was kind of a redemption game of sorts. For Team USA, they won the bronze medal in the tournament last year. And the 2022 squad for 3x3 featured Veronica Burton, Lexi Hull, Nalissa Smith of the Fever, and Camille Zimmerman. So yeah. That's your international news for this week. Just want to let you all know about that game. Also, there's just always international games happening, so I'll make sure to continue to keep you all posted about the results. And we'll see how Team USA continues to do. But y'all, watch out for Brazil. Brazil has just been a good team for a long time, and they're going to continue to be a really good team. Of course, Canada too, but I think the US's real competition when it comes to at least AmeriCup really is Brazil, because they're very, very good. All right, guys, that is today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all learned something. I hope it was interesting to you. If you all have any thoughts about what I talked about, please leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you like this video, I hope that you please hit that like button. That would be awesome. Also, if you have suggestions about stuff that I should feature in the future, let me know, because I'm all ears for how to improve this show. So I thank you all so much for watching Women's Basketball Weekly. I will catch you all next week, Mondays at 6 p.m. Also, I'll be back this week doing some live streams. So if you want to watch some of those, please subscribe to the channel and also turn on your bell notification so you can get notified whenever I go live. I thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button. And until next time, guys. Bye.